Hey everybody, today we're going to continue our Tamiya TT-02 type SR build. And today we're at step 29, which is the electronics. Don't be afraid of all the electronics. If this is your first kit, I'm going to walk you through every step. I'm going to show you what every piece is and what they all do. And I'll kind of explain the logic behind all of it. So let's go ahead and bring together all the electronics that we're going to need. I have the radio here, which is also known as the transmitter. It's kind of big. I don't want to move my camera, but you have this. And that transmitter came with the receiver. This is going to go in the car. The transmitter is obviously going to stay in your hand. You also have the servo. I have this inexpensive, low profile servo here from Amazon. And we also have a battery. We have a ESC, or electronic speed control. And we also have the motor that we previously installed onto the chassis already. So this step is very important. What you want to do is actually test everything and make sure everything works before you place the electronics into the car. So let me go ahead and explain how all the pieces come together. So let's start from your hand, which is the transmitter, to the receiver. So this is going to be basically your brain. Whatever output you have at the transmitter, this is going to be inputted. And then it's going to feed the information to the rest of the car, either steering, throttle, reverse, brake, whatever it may be. So this is basically the brain. And the servo is connected to the receiver. And so is the ESC. And both of these have these 3-pin connectors. And these are the connectors that's going to go into the receiver right here. And you can see right there, TH is throttle and ST is steering. So that's really straightforward. So let's go ahead and plug those in. So the first one is steering. Now yours is going to vary. These exposed pins may be up, it may be down. Whatever receiver you have, it may be different. So I know this one is the exposed pins are facing up. And then, like I said, the second one is throttle. Don't worry about the third and fourth one right now. We don't have any functionality for them at the moment. Okay. Now we're building, if you're using the same ESC I am, which probably came with the kit that you purchased, this is going to be really simple. So you don't need, so there's 3 wires here and there's only 2 on the motor in the car. So what are we going to do? Well, there's a unique feature about this ESC, which I'm not going to get into. I'm just going to keep this real simple today. And basically, we're not going to use the orange wire. We're just going to tuck that away later on and make sure it doesn't hit the drive shaft, but we're not going to use it today. Real simple. The yellow wire connects to the yellow wire on the motor. You want to push it all the way in. Blue wire connects with the green wire. And you want to try to get the plastic sleeve to kind of go over the other one. And it goes all the way in. Hear a little snap. Perfect. Now when that's all done, that's all connected, we're going to go ahead and connect the battery. The battery is the final piece. And the car was already on, so you can hear that beeping sound. So switch is right here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off for now. Now, whatever transmitter and receiver that you have, you need to first bind them. Binding means you're going to connect the transmitter and the receiver to make sure that they're talking to each other, make sure they know, okay, I'm going to be the transmitter that controls you, receiver, and they acknowledge each other. So go ahead and read your own manuals. Whatever model you have, you need to refer to that manual. Whatever I'm going to do here is going to be a little bit different if you don't have the same transmitter receiver combo. Okay, so assuming you already have the radio bind together, we're going to first always turn on the transmitter first. You can hear that beep, and then now I'm going to turn on this side, which is the car, and everything should be powered up and ready to go. So first, let's go ahead and test the servo. And this is a servo. The servo controls the steering of the car. It's going to attach to the steering mechanism that we put together in the last part. And we're going to go through that a little bit later on and when we install this. But if you can see the splines here, let me go ahead and turn the wheel on the transmitter. You can see and hear that the transmitter, the servo is working, and the transmitter is able to talk to the servo. That's great. And then next, let's go ahead and test the throttle. Now this is going to be a little bit loud. I have some gearing issues here, but I'm going to just go ahead and press forward on my throttle. You can see us spinning, and press reverse. You can see that it's moving in both directions. So now I know that all my electronics are set up properly and we're ready to go. Now we're ready to move on to the next part. All right, for this part, we only need the servo. I went ahead and put the car away. And first thing you need to do is find this tree right here and figure out how many tooth is in your servo spline. Mine happens to fit this one. Really doesn't matter how many, just as long as it fits. You don't need to know exactly what your servo is, 24, 25. Just figure out which one of these two fits. So that's that. So one of the things when we tested the electronics was set the servo. What I mean by set the servo is when it turned on, it kind of went to center. So now that when we put on the servo saver, we're able to center it. If we didn't do that, and for some reason the servo was turned at a 20-degree angle, when we turn on the car, it's going to pivot back to center because that's where it wants to be. And then all of a sudden you start the car and the car's steering is pointed left. And you'd have to uninstall the servo, put everything back, adjust the servo horn, and then put everything back. It's quite a hassle. It's happened to me before. So make sure you test the electronics before you put on the servo saver. Okay, so all the parts that we need here, we need a short screw right here. It's a 6mm screw, and that is going to attach to the back to connect the ball stud. And we need ball stud and a couple springs. We actually need 3 springs here according to this diagram. So let's go ahead and do that first. I'm going to put on this ball stud because otherwise it's going to be a little bit hard. And I think it calls for the center hole from here. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn this. My hand as far as I can go. Then I'll grab the tools I need. I'm going to need that to hold it. And then tighten it with the hex driver. Okay, so that's on there. Now we need to assemble this. So we have the servo saver that's going to attach to the servo, and we need to put on 3 rings. So the 3 rings are 3 different sizes, like small, medium, large, and they nest into each other. So let's get started. So these 2 are actually the same size. So I'm just going to stretch one, it doesn't really matter which one, to go over the other. think it helps if you squeeze the bottom one and then spread the top one open. Okay, like so. Do need to try to get the index opening about the same. Okay, and then for the large ring, really easy, just slips over. Okay, now we need to nest the large ring over. That's a piece of cake. There you go. Now we need to get all three of them over this. And you just need to spread this open. I may not be able to do this on camera. I may have to. Okay, I hope you managed to do that. This is what it should look like when you're done. All three springs are in there, including the outside one. What I ended up having to do, was using 2 pairs of pliers and prying it open and then slipping on top. It worked for me. Unfortunately, couldn't get it into the angle, into the shot to record that for you. Let's go ahead and move on. So we know the servo, this is important now, the servo moving components on this side, in this direction, and we're going to be putting this piece on first. And you want to make sure it's vertical. Okay. Next step is the horn part. Let me try. Okay, you can see that it lines up. Now you can see that there. Okay, it lines up perfectly. Okay, and there's a cap here, like that, and then the screw. Go ahead and work this. There's a whole section here on which screw to use. I just experimented with a few screws to find which one was the right thread and the right length, and it turned out it was a very common screw. Okay, just like the diagram here. The saver is perfectly vertical. I think it's almost perfectly vertical. I think that's acceptable. Let's go ahead and move on. All right. The next step, we're going to be bringing in the chassis back. We're going to build these links. I'm going to put the mounts onto the servo, and then we're going to set the servo onto the chassis, put the receiver on, tape on the switch, and get everything ready to go. So let's go ahead and first do this. We're going to build a link. All right, just in case you didn't watch the last 2 videos where I built the steering links, I'm going to talk about this again. So this is a turnbuckle, and the threads on each side, one of them is clockwise, one of them is counterclockwise. I'll explain the reason why. But first, let's go ahead and figure out what is what. Okay, so piers, this one is going to be clockwise. And I have a couple tools here to help me put this together. I have a shock shaft wrench to help me hold it without damaging the rod, and I also have a rod end wrench here that I can use to turn. So I was wrong, this was counterclockwise. Okay, so we're just going to put that through. I'm going to go all the way. That means this side is going to be clockwise. And So let me explain why one is clockwise, one is counterclockwise. So when this rod is mounted onto the car, it's going to link the servo with the steering assembly. And any of the links that you have in the car, if you haven't built this, if you haven't watched the previous videos, anytime you have a turnbuckle like this, you're able to lengthen and shorten this just by turning this hex right here. So that's why one is clockwise, one is counterclockwise. Otherwise, if they were both clockwise, righty tighty, when you turn this, it wouldn't do anything. It would just stay the same length. One end might pop out, but that's about it. Okay, and it says here in the manual here that it should be 11 to 13 millimeters apart. I am going to go ahead and tighten this a little bit. Okay. $13.5. Okay. Alrighty. There we go. It's within that margin, and then we'll adjust it when we set it in there. Okay, and then the next part, we need to find A12s. All right, I found all the pieces that we needed. We have these two mounts, and they go in this direction. The servo goes over here. Take this screw, slip on a washer, and we're going to drive it to the top. Okay. And the second one goes there. Okay, there we go. That's tight, and we're ready to mount this onto the chassis. Okay, I left the ESC connected. I unplugged the battery, and I'm just setting it aside so I have more room. And so we need to place that there and drive two flathead screws, which I have right here, onto the bottom, through the bottom, into those servo mounts that we just put on. And real simple. There's one. Make sure it lines up. There's two. And let me bring those home with the electric. All right. Okay, here we go. The servo is in. And if you look at the diagram here, there is a antenna cable stand, which I don't use. And the reason is I tuck in my antenna cables inside a little bit of heat shrink. And I tape it to the side. I do this basically all my receivers. I don't do any speed runs. I usually only drive my cars on the track. I don't let it drive a quarter-mile away. I don't really need that antenna extension. Plus you put an extra hole in the body, which I don't like. So I'm going to go ahead and skip that. I might just come back and put it on anyway so that I don't have a hole on the bottom. But you go ahead and follow that. I am not going to do that. All right, so the next step, they're asking to tape the switch and everything, and then put on the ESC. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have enough room first before I tape down everything. Okay, don't worry about the wires. We'll find a way to tuck the wires away, tape them away, or whatnot. We'll figure it out. Let's just make sure we have enough room. Okay. All right, this receiver is actually going to go on top of the servo. I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. Alrighty. So that's my mock-up. I'm going to have the motor, ESC, and the servo and the receiver in this position. Okay, we're ready to glue everything down. Okay, inside the kit, you should find this strip right here. It is double-sided tape. It's a little bit padded, give it a little cushioning. And we're going to be using this to put the ESC and receiver in place. So you can probably just eyeball this, but I can go ahead and quickly measure and cut a piece. You don't need any more than the length of the component that you're trying to tape down. And all you do is remove the backing, put it onto the component, peel the other backing off, and go ahead and set it. So the switch is going to go right here to the front of this. So I need to back this ESC up a little bit, but not too much because I don't want the wires to interfere with the propeller shaft. Okay, like so. And we're going to need to put this right there. And as you can see, I don't need a big piece. I just need a tiny piece right there for that. Okay, you can center that if you want, but I'm not too picky about that at the moment. Okay, and now I'm just going to set the receiver down. I want to make sure I'm not going to interfere with the servo link here, so I need to push this as far as possible just to avoid contact. The heatsink might touch the heat shrink here, but really not a big deal. Just do the best you can. Just going to grab a small piece. I swap receivers quite often. Sometimes I drive a car a couple times, realize I don't like it that much, I just take out the receiver and use it in some other car, and the car becomes a shelf queen. I still appreciate the body, still appreciate the car, I just don't drive it that much. Okay, so that's how you link everything together. And let's go ahead and test it again, just to make sure we didn't disconnect anything. Matter of fact, we did disconnect the servo. So let's go ahead and put that back. Let's see if it's long enough. Not long enough. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and test this. Let me turn on the transmitter, turn on the car. I have steering input, and let's make sure throttle still works. Yep, okay, everything still works. Let me turn it off again, unplug the battery, and put the steering link on. Okay, I did that in kind of the wrong order, so, and it happens. I'm going to go ahead and remove this real quick and place that in there. Put that in there and put the servo back. Okay. Looks like everything is still in alignment. Let's go ahead and make sure everything is working again. All right, and now we have steering. We have what I have is kind of the opposite. When I turn right, it's actually turning left. So that's something you would change on the transmitter, and again, refer to your manual how to do that. Now when I turn right, the car will turn right. Okay, so that was really simple, and that concludes this episode. We went ahead and taped on all the electronics and put it all together, connected and make sure it all worked. I'm going to go ahead and just tidy this up off camera, and then I'll leave and I'll show you guys in the next video what it looks like coming up. And the next video is going to be gluing tires, and we'll put the body mounts on, and we're really close to the finish line here. So thanks for watching. Video was a little bit chaotic, but I hope you got the gist of what I was trying to demonstrate. Thanks for watching. Please leave your feedback below. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to watch more. See you guys in the next one.